What is it you want, Barry? What do you want? You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
Come with me if you want to live.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
The Force will be with you, always.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 20th Century Geek. I'm your regular host, Scott Weatherly, and I am joined by Benjamin Hall. Benjamin, how are you doing? You okay?
I'm doing relatively okay right now.
Good. Well, I'll take that. It's like you say, it's been an odd couple of years and stuff, but we're now here to talk comics. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are returning to the Desert Island. We're going to be at the Desert Island Comics, and Benjamin has chosen three single issues. He's made that choice. He's packed them in his bag and he's taken them with him. And we've got three that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about in chronological order. Shazam #1 from 1973, Adventureman #1 from 2020, and Frontiersman #1 from 2021. So as always, I usually go off and attempt to read these. I had trouble getting Shazam one. I haven't really been able to read it, so I've got bits and pieces. But
Shazam #1?
Yeah, I think it's quite I was on not the DC app. I went on to sort of like Amazon for comics.
I thought it'd be easier for you to find, but since they got the collections, but it's like we have the collections up, but we don't have the actual single issues.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to sort of take me through that one. Now, I do know about obviously Shazam and you know him being Captain Marvel, the original, if we want to get down to that. But then we will go into Adventureman, which I will say was like I really enjoyed that. That's one I'm going to continue to read.
And that was like 3 issues worth.
Oh yeah, like it's a big issue. First issue is great. I really enjoyed it. And then we'll get to Frontiersman as well, which is 2021. So let's go back to 1973. You know, we're talking sort of handlebar mustaches, big mutton shop sideburns, and everyone's really.
I wasn't even a twinkle in anybody's eye.
No, me neither. It's at least 8 years before I was born. So
yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about Shazam #1. Why did you choose Shazam #1?
Well, I figured I need a fun issue for being on a desert island. So whether I'm there intentionally or not, it doesn't matter. It's just a case of you need something fun, you need something frivolous and quick, because maybe you're going to do something else on the desert island. I don't know.
Yeah.
And this one I picked also because of the fact that it's got 2 good stories in it. One from the Golden Age, one from the Bronze.
Mm-hmm.
And a little history about the characters publishing.
Go for it.
As well as explanations of some of the side characters you see in the main story.
Oh, I saw that. It's one of the things. It has like an origin, doesn't it? So it does say about like because when I was looking at this, it's obviously this is how best to put it. Although it's a single issue, it's like an anthology. It collects those shorter sort of, let's say, Golden Age stories.
Yeah, it has a origin where the wizard is just like, okay, time for me to die. And then he's like, holy moly. and that was probably a little loud. Sorry, folks.
No.
But he then just gets reassurance from the wizard in like the next panel.
Yeah.
From the wizard's ghost, rather.
I like some of those things in the we've had this sort of like decompressing of comics over the years, and obviously sort of reached its peak sort of I think in the early 2000s. But yeah, you watch a Golden Age, you read a Golden Age comic, and in like 8 pages.
This was the Bronze Age retelling of.
It's like the Bronze Age one as well. Oh god, yeah, I love some.
The Golden Age story is about a guy this old man who finds the string, and it's seemingly endless, and he's starting to pull out stuff from this other dimension.
Wow, that's
and there's a scientist, and just it's weird. It's from 1946, and it's just a reprint of one of Captain Marvel's earlier adventures.
I kind of like that though. I was going to say because Captain Marvel or Shazam sort of thing, represents sort of like an earlier time. Obviously, I think he has that sort of, even more so than Superman in some ways, that sort of Boy Scout thing, because he's supposed to be a kid.
Yeah.
At heart.
And an innocent kid at the time.
Right. Yeah. But some of the, like you say, some of the stories, I have seen a couple, like they were not afraid of just going, yeah, we're going to be weird. Like, we're not going to make, we're not aiming for realism. This is a comic, and we're going to, like you said, we're going to have something fun and wacky, and we're going to go for it. So I kind of respect that they're going to do that, in 1946. So it's quite good, getting that reprint. So,
and they also have sort of, how the Wonder Woman series with Linda Carter had her go from 1940s to 1970s.
Yes.
They sort of do something similar to that with this first issue's story, where they go, okay, here's the origin, and now we're pointing out that he and his cast of usual characters and at least 3 villains, Savannah and 2 of his 2 evil kids, all got stuck in suspendium.
Yeah, gotta give it a name.
Suspendium, and Savannah also ended up accidentally stuck in there because his kid walloped him on the back proudly.
Yeah.
And so they end up in 1970s because of that. Now, they're still on a different Earth than the regular adventures of Superman and all that, or even the Earth 2 superheroes.
Yeah, because as I say, because it's not, I can't remember which world Earth it isn't, but there's like a, because
Earth S, I think.
It's the what, sorry?
Yeah.
Earth what number?
S.
Oh, S. Okay, yeah. I think so. Yeah, because it's one of those ones. Yeah, because when they did like multiverse, because one of those things, obviously, with multiversity, and they've obviously gone into the multiverse more and more, giving them all their own thing. I kind of like the fact that there's just a Shazam that with this sort of like the Marvel family live, and that's their world, and you've obviously got like all those characters. I don't know. The thing is, I don't know the Marvel characters that well. Excuse me. I know some of them. Obviously the family, but more sort of like from the 52, New 52 onwards kind of thing. Because they have like a tiger in a suit with
Bonnie, the talking tiger. Yeah.
Yeah.
He appears. I don't think he's appearing in this issue. Maybe he does. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'd actually have to just pull over right now at the issue right now and just go check, but I'm not going to. But he is a talking tiger who they've done some things with in the present day, but they've mainly stayed away from him being just a tiger who magically gets trousers and stuff.
Yeah, going back to that golden age of weirdness where they're just sort of like, we don't need to explain it, just a tiger in trousers.
Well, it's a whole suit deal.
Yes, it is a 3-piece suit. It's always over a suit. It's just a 3-piece suit, isn't it? And the works. Yeah.
He's also very eloquent.
He is. Doesn't he represent later on? I don't know if they have him representing like a race, like there's a race of tiger warriors or tiger people or something.
Final Crisis, they had him become king of these experimental versions of the Commandy tigers.
That's right. That's what I was thinking about.
I think he killed Caesar.
Yeah.
Or Calabac and Caesar, something like that.
Yeah. I just remember that I read Final Crisis not too long ago. And I was like, oh, that rings a bell. Yeah, I mean the thing, like I said, these characters, I like the fact that you said fun. There's no sort of like weight or baggage or politicization with the sort of like, especially something from 73. No, not from 73 really with this, especially with some reprint stuff. So it's good to dip into those different areas, and also it's a mixed bag, so it's got lots of different things in there to be sort of you can take different things from. Beyond that, though, because the thing is, obviously, this was like an introduction issue, so that works as well. So it acts as like a standalone.
Yeah.
I assume I didn't check this actually. I just because this was number 1, so like 2, 3, and 4 and onwards. Did they become just Bronze Age comics, or were they still reprinting stuff?
There were some reprints, but for the most part, it was new stuff, and up until around the time of the TV show.
Oh God, yeah.
And then they did this weird stuff where they would have certain issues be reprints, and Yeah, it's because DC implosion deal was around 74. So yeah, so that affected things. But you also had the factor of just they they took the weird traveling in the van with the actual Uncle Dudley, and changed the look of the characters for some of the stories to match the TV show and the whole. He talks to the elders. Kind of.
Okay, that's disappointing.
So it's okay, but it's not what I think of when I think Captain Marvel or Shazam.
Yeah, you sort of you're more relatable, or you enjoy more that original sort of setup. It's interesting. I mean, I would say that we'll get to Adventureman shortly, but Shazam represents to me that sort of even more so than Superman in some cases, represents to me that sort of like the golden age of superheroes. Superman I sort of see as having evolved and sort of moved sort of beyond that, but Shazam still.
Yeah. Even in the golden age, Superman quickly moved on, and sadly, he also stole a lot from Captain Marvel's adventure.
Yes. But like, there's something about Captain Marvel. The idea of Billy Batson becoming the boy becoming the hero, and even the costume styling with the sort of like the cape with and sort of there's the red with the big sort of bright bolt on the front. It's sort of, I don't know, there's something about it I just find I actually I'm drawn to that in a sort of way of like, that feels like the golden age of comics to me, sort of more so.
I think that's also partly due to the fact that it's a very specific hunger related primary colors. Yeah, because those colors are like associated with McDonald's and other fast food places where it's like, let's get you hungry people and wanting to buy our junk.
So what you're saying is, whenever I see, I'm not relating him to the Golden Age. I am literally looking and going, nuggets, Big Mac.
Well, I'm more like, I'm hungry for this.
Yes. Oh yeah, no, definitely, yeah. He definitely sort of, it's one of those characters I haven't read. I will. Confession time. Let me put it this way. I do struggle to read Golden Age comics. Like I've tried and I've dipped in and I've read certain ones and specific ones and this and that, but I find them very, very hard to read because
they're also hard to find, at least here in America. It's like you look for DC stuff or Charlatan, basically anything from the Golden Age, and it is like either thousands of dollars or just you can't find it digitally for cheap.
Well, that's the thing. Like even the collected editions, like they'll print them, but they're like usually like a limited run, or they're sort of like, they're only for certain people. So they do like, like a premiere hardback edition, and it's like, $100 and some dollars, and you're like, I'm not buying that just to read a couple of Golden Age comics. It's a shame, really. They should be more accessible. I think, hopefully there'll be more on the DC app for some of the bigger characters, but
not to mention they also discontinue those runs like crazy. It's like, oh, well, we're doing this brand spanking new imprint or run or whatever, and we're just going to stop.
Yeah. There's a lot of short runs and lots of. But I know this happens a bit. I mean, Marvel became incredibly sort of renowned for doing that with like their characters. Like 12-issue runs, not 18-issue runs, and you get that's not a run. That's ridiculous. Like let them breathe, for God's sake.
But, I was actually rather angered over the fact they abruptly stopped Black Widow recently.
Oh yeah, another one that's sort of like
and they had to truncate their ending, where it's like, obviously this wasn't the ending, but this is the ending you're getting, and we hope to be back someday, but probably won't.
Yeah, well, this is it. I think there's been a few of those. Like the one that the most bothered me in most recent years was Cy Spura doing Hellblazer. He came back and did John Constantine Hellblazer, and it was great, and it went to 12 issues, and they stopped it, and it was like critically acclaimed. The fans loved it, and they're just like, oh yeah, we're not going to carry it on. You're just like, what the hell? Like bizarre decision making. But
and they don't promote these things either, so
No.
it's like, or anywhere to get them. So
yeah,
it's like,
exactly. Anyway, let's any more thoughts on Shazam? No, because we do good discussions.
Well, I have one final thing to say about it, and that is, if anyone has not liked the current handling of Shazam, you can always go back to this series and find some good stories.
That's a very good point. Yeah, if you're not liking anything post New 52, go back and check some of this stuff out, because it definitely relates back to that more golden age, bronze age.
Even the 52, even in 52 with Jeff Johns and I think it was Gary Frank.
Mm-hmm.
Their stuff with Shazam, I was like, I don't like this, because it's like, yeah, you have a point with Billy probably not going to be a totally pure kid, but he should at least come across better than Black Adam.
Yes, that's a very good point. Yeah. He's had a rough history in the last sort of decade or so, hasn't he? Really, Shazam. Yeah. It's been a bit of an odd one. So yeah, but you're right. That's a really good point. Yeah, go back and check those out. It might be well worth your time. In different ways. I'm sure you can find collected editions and other bits and pieces on eBay and elsewhere. Right, jumping up, a massive jump, decade jump to very modern. Let's talk about Adventureman #1. Now
we're sort of jumping forward and back with this one.
Yes, I want to say, yeah, because I mean, right, yeah. I'm going to be reading this run because I love this. I was like, oh, this is a fantastic setup. This is right.
Yeah, it's still ongoing, just like Frontiersman is, but they're on hiatus, printing wise, or release wise, because it's Image.
Yeah, these things, they sometimes take time. But you mentioned beforehand that it's a #1, but it's like 50 something pages long. It's a
90 pages, I think.
Is it? Yeah, it was a hefty first issue, and it was ace. Just to give the listeners a bit of a review or a bit of a sort of blurb of this book. So the opening of the book is set in a past
1930s
period. Yeah, like 1940s, 30s kind of era. The pulp era of heroes, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And a town, a city is being attacked from the sky, and they call it, the police commissioner has to call on someone to come save them, and he calls Adventureman. But Adventureman has his crew of misfits, weirdo, these people. There's like a flying ace, a burlesque dancer that's a ghost, and a magician, and like a brawler.
Well, she has phantom powers at that point. She's not. Yeah. I don't think she's a full-on ghost yet.
No.
At that point. But there's a magician. There's an assassin who just he's supposed to be the world's greatest, but there's a little twist to that. I don't know. I can't remember if that was in the first issue. I don't think it was.
No, I don't think so.
But you'll find out if you read this. Just it's like, how is he the world's greatest assassin then?
I'm looking forward to finding out, because I'm definitely reading more. The whole first part of the book is this adventure. It's Adventureman, sort of like he's called up, and his crew are called up, and they take on this barren mayhem kind of thing, and they have to save the day. And it's all very pulpy, and like this is basically Doc Savage and his crew.
And a few other few other genres mixed in with the first crew.
You've got a lot of different things going on in there, but it's very, very good. Drawn by Terry Dodson and
Rachel Dodson.
So yes, and I absolutely love the art. But then it sort of stops, and what you find out is it stops on the first part of the book stops on a cliffhanger, which I'm not going to spoil. But you find out that it's actually that a mother has been reading this Adventureman book, this pulp book, to her son, and he's a big fan. And she has this family that she doesn't really sort of get on with, but she sort of does because she has to. And she runs her mother has passed, and she runs her mother's bookstore. And then all of a sudden, she's handed this sort of compendium, or this sort of compartment of Adventureman journal entries by this mysterious woman. And these bug people, and then that's where sort of the adventure transfers into what would be the real world. So it's a great setup. And I didn't know how long this was. So I had it on Comixology or as Amazon Comixology. And so I was just reading it. I was like, this keeps going. This is brilliant. I had to double check to make sure I hadn't bought like the first volume, but like, this is fantastic fun. I really enjoyed it. So what made you choose this then? What's the draw for you?
Well, I originally picked this up after reviewing it, or maybe for a review for comiccon.com.
Mm-hmm.
And well, it was something I was hesitant about originally, because I had encountered Terry and Rachel's work before in Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And I was like, this doesn't really suit this. This is like too clean, too hyper stylized in a way,
Mm-hmm.
where it just didn't feel like Wonder Woman. But I was like, okay, well, I like Matt Fraction. I like certain pulp adventures. Why not give this a chance? And I was pleasantly surprised by it. Now, this was before COVID hit and Black Lives Matter was still like doing their marches regularly. And they're probably still doing their marches. And that's a whole other matter, political, that I'm not happy that it has to continue, because, we should have equality here.
Yeah.
But, that's neither here nor there for this podcast. What is here nor there is the fact that this issue provides a good sampling of what this series is about.
Mm-hmm.
And it also allows for cliffhanger endings to actually make sense. You don't just have to feel like, oh, they ended it abruptly just because they had to end it abruptly because they couldn't think of anything better to end it with. It's more like, well, yeah, some cliffhangers are abrupt.
Yeah. Especially in those pulp adventures, like you say, that was sort of like the point, wasn't it? They came in sort of serial, a lot of them, and as in serial, as in like, chapters rather than cornflakes.
And it also has sort of that Alec Baldwin pulp flair, where it's like, oh, it's partly realistic.
Mm.
Yeah, it's also Alec Baldwin, The Shadow, the 1990, where it's like partly realistic, but it's also very neat, clean, and idealized.
Yes.
And there's even a, well, what's real, what's not.
Well,
just making it with a shadow character.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things I'd say is you say about how sort of like the clean art, the clean the art is and stuff. And I was just having a look, and one thing I would say is they do a really good job of. There's a slight differentiation in the art. In that when it's in, I'm trying to find an image, the art that's in Adventureman, the first sort of however many pages, like you say, has that. There's a slightly more. It's slightly more bombastic.
Yeah.
It really plays up to that sort of like pulp era. It's everything's sort of slightly exaggerated and the character exaggerated, and yet when it comes into the real world, like that, Dodson sort of pulls it back down and brings it back to. Like I say, the art is beautifully clean, but it still feels there's a clear but not jarring difference between the first part and the second part, which I really appreciate, because it's that thing of going like, oh, they are two different worlds, like, and you can utilize that later on. So
sadly, the second story arc has some artistic flaws to it, but it's still reasonably good. I'm still sticking with it.
Yeah, no, I can see what you mean. But like you say, I like what they do. There's a couple of, I will admit, I think this is more of a modern thing, but there's a couple of panels when they've got lots of people in it, and that feels slightly rushed, or that some of the characters are less detailed and stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, okay. But other than that, I actually really enjoy the art, and the art's fantastic. And again, I like the fact that this does give. If anything, one of the things is you mentioned the Shadow, like, 1994, and I think of like the Rocketeer. I love all that pulp stuff. I'm a big fan of it. But this also made me think of like those, because you got the kid and his mom. It felt very much like this could be an 80s Spielberg film. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Or Adventures in Babysitting, or
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It has that sort of feel about it, so you can just dive in and enjoy this, and I think that's why it's sort of a good read. But I mean, are you a fan of the sort of the pulp era stuff, like Doc Savage and your Shadow, your Justice Inc. and
I am a fan of what I've read so far of the pulp era. I haven't read every little thing because there's so much of that.
Oh yeah, God, there's hundreds.
But I've read some Doc Savage adventures and heard some Shadow radio programs, and I'm like, this is good material.
Yeah, it's good fun. It's some of those early Shadow radio plays. The second era, because obviously weirdly, it's one of those weird ones where the Shadow was a narrator for the first bunch, and then he became the character. So when he becomes the character, he's actually, they're cool. I do like some of those. And for people that want to check them out, like literally, you can Google, because they're sort of what do they call it? Out of copyright now. And so they're available in a lot of different places. On YouTube, I think there's podcasts that are sort of repurposing them, and all.
And there's places that actively reprint them.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, go find them out, because they have really good. I've got a whole bunch of like Doc Savage and Shadow pulp novels, and they're really good fun. They are really good fun. Highly recommend.
The only one I can say that is a mix of because you mentioned copyright, the only character from the pulps that I can honestly say is probably still somewhat owned by the creators is Conan. Mm-hmm. His estate, Robert E. Howard's estate, I think, still owns some of the copyright, maybe.
Yes, which is why it seems to bounce between publishers all the time. Like it was obviously been to DC, it's been to Marvel, and now it's actually moving to Titan. So it's and
I feel bad for the creators who were working on with the continuity having Conan at Marvel, and now it's like our stories can't really be reprinted, or if they are, we have to call them something else.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting on that, because and they were good. There was some good stuff coming out. Marvel did some good stuff with Conan. So it'll be interesting what they do with them. But the pulp era stuff. It's interesting how we were talking about sort of Superman and the other sort of evolving past their golden age roots.
Yeah.
However, there is still this sort of love, almost intrinsic love, like within sort of pop culture of those pulp heroes. You get sort of those sort of archetypes crop up again and again. I mean, everything from like the movies we talked about, the Rocketeer or the Shadow, sort of in the 90s, or Indiana Jones,
and people forget that while the Punisher is inspired by Death Wish, that he's still also a character that is much of a pulp era.
Oh yeah, yeah. You see them all over, and that's the thing. Even like you say, all those sort of Marvel and DC load. The Question, is
and the big destruction with the event comics. You would see stuff like that in the Spider, where
it's
like, okay, let's have this big destructive event happen, and yet people are still living in this locale.
Yeah, repeatedly. Yeah. There's some great ones in the Shadow of that, actually. Like say City gets, like it's New York, like gets like parts of New York get like flattened and stuff, and then like, we'll see you next time, and you're like, oh right, cool, we're moving on from that then. Like that's never going to be mentioned again. Doesn't matter, and that's the fun of it. That is the point. So, and that's what inspired comics, and that's why I think they're almost there, aren't they? In sort of like the grassroots. I mean, they keep coming through again. Read Planetary. That's what I was just looking at. Warren Ellis's Planetary, and that's obviously got that's not older, but.
Yeah, and I'd only recommend that now for people to read if they're buying it secondhand.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It's a different. It's a good read.
It's a good read, but it's yeah. But that
Controversial.
one is also I figured out his formula, and so now I'm like, yeah, it's very self-insert.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think that sort of there's some obviously with Warren Ellis. There's a lot of controversy there. It's obviously a sticky subject.
Well, without getting into the controversy, I figured out.
But even his writing, yeah. So look, I do like this Paul Pierce. And obviously, you add in a family dynamic, and it's going to have it's going to touch that thing. So I think this is a great choice, and I'm glad you introduced me to this because this is one I'm actually going to go out and check and get the first volume. Although
it's got some interesting dimensions, just so if you buy it physically. It's like going to be hard to shelve.
Oh, is it oversized? Oh, I love an oversized.
Yeah, but it's done in a way that if you're going to if you have kids or no kids, they can easily pick it up and look through it.
That's a bit of a double-edged sword, though, isn't it? Really, you want them to read, but I don't really want them touching my stuff. It's one of those.
Well, you don't want them touching your stuff at a certain age. Where it's like,
that's true.
I'm just going to break it.
Yeah, sticky fingers and breaking the egg. Oh well, kids. Anyway, any more thoughts? Any final thoughts about Adventureman?
Let's see. Only that if someone starts it, they should keep an open mind for the second arc because while it takes off from a cliffhanger, it also will end on a cliffhanger, and they get a little repetitive with some of the issues.
Okay. Stick it out.
Where it's like where's the plot going? Is it even going? Kind of deal.
Okay. Still worth, yeah. We'll
still worth checking out, though.
Still worth checking out. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to recommend this first issue. It was fantastic. Right, and bringing right up to the next year, to 2021, you introduced me to Frontiersman, which is another. It's a good book. I enjoyed it, actually. Got some interesting dimensions to it. However, it fits into another trope that I've sort of seen going out, which is the aging superhero having to look back on his life and make those sort of a decision in his elder age sort of thing. I've seen it a few times now, but it's but that's what this is. This guy Frontiersman lives out in the woods, and he's called upon to sort of front an eco campaign. And really, this first issue is about him considering his past, what he did, where he is now, and should he do this, come out of retirement sort of thing, yes or no. And again, I thought this was really good fun. I really enjoyed this.
One of the hooks for me is not just the aging superhero and the Green Arrow parallels.
Yeah.
But the fact that, and this is really why I chose it, the fact that the conversations are so good. And you also get some actual discussion politically about things in a way that feels natural, and without feeling like, oh, well, this person's like so on board with this versus that.
Well, it calls it out, actually, doesn't it? Like in the issue, it actually calls it out. It says because he's approached, and he actually says like, well, you've spoken to everybody else, haven't you? Then, and he's like, yeah, kind of. This kid who's calling him out to sort of join this campaign. Yeah. But then they talk about it, and he says, "Yeah, but he says, well, why can't you use one of them?" He said, "Well, they just use the buzzwords. Like it's just about getting through an interview. Like you lived it. Like you actually did stuff where you were being opposed by like the police and the people."
And then Frontiersman is basically saying, "Yeah, but I'm sort of out of it now, and I'm not up to date." And
that's it. Like he says, he's out of the loop, and it's created this level of like cynicism as well. That he was like, "Look, I tried. I said all these things. I did all these things. Nothing's changed. You're still having to do this stuff again." And so I like this idea of having to sort of like look back and consider your place and it's your legacy. What did you leave behind? What did you achieve? Is what this book sort of says to me. And so I like that it's exploring that in this kind of way, and in a fun way. Like, he's not like, this isn't like a heavy book. It's
not Watchmen. It is far from Watchmen.
Yeah.
Where it's like everybody's very edgy, very extreme about their opinions.
Yeah, no, this is definitely not that. I mean, it's left leaning, and you can sort of feel that, and obviously blatantly in there. But no, it definitely feels more.
I wouldn't say it's blatantly left leaning. I'd say it's almost blatantly left leaning, because you do get some opinions on the right side and the center.
That's great point. Actually, it's fair. It's quite a sensible book, isn't it? Like, it's not just like rah rah rah. Like, he's actually makes some very sort of like common sense opinions. And so it was an interesting book. The art's good as well. Actually, I really quite enjoyed the art. It's a bit more sketchy, that sort of like rougher edge and stuff, but I still like it. But yeah, the Frontiersman, it feels like a comic that who released it, by the way? I forgot to check.
Image.
It is an Image comic.
Both Adventureman and Frontiersman.
Yeah, it feels
they both go on hiatus at different times.
Right. Yeah, it feels like that kind of thing. I was going to say that, or maybe like Boom or something would have done it, but it feels like sort of like this is a passion project. Like, this is representing someone's feelings, someone's opinions. And so it feels it's got that weight behind it, where it's fun and it's still got some silly moments and it's got some, some good humor in it. But it to me, it still felt like it's got some personal weight going on, which I like when people bring those kind of things to the story.
Yeah, and you sort of get the feeling that he had a Black Canary of his own in the first issue, but they haven't fully delved into that part of his history yet.
How many issues have been released now? Is it 2021?
There was like 5 or 6 issues of the first released, and a lockup special was definitely released, where he goes to jail at the end of spoilers. He goes to jail awaiting trial for some stuff that happens in those issues. And they're going to bring it back with they're currently doing a in the same universe thing with a Punisher style character called Guyana.
Right.
In the anthology series Image Anniversary, whatever, 30th anniversary or whatever.
Okay. So they're expanding this then. That's kind of cool. I like when they do that as well. So there's a lot there to explore. I mean, this basically is like Frontiersman. Basically, he is exactly what you'd think. When he was a hero, he basically wore sort of like a Davy Crockett outfit.
Yeah. David Crockett with a Lone Ranger to stop weird
Domino mask. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's got some interesting ideas. I would like to know more. And again, I may look at volume 1 at least.
I just want to know if he ever hits anyone with the pots he has around his belt.
Oh yeah, the design's interesting, because it's one of those sort of designs I say it's good fun. I like the look of it, but it seems incredibly impractical. Like, he wouldn't sort of go, oh, that seems like it's the way to go to be jumping.
Well, it's also more real world, because you'd figure that a person who calls themselves Frontiersman or Green Arrow or whatever would have something like that. If they're going for a certain aesthetic, or if they're just more inclined to be out in the wild.
Yes. Yeah, they're looking to present that kind of image. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's a good look. I mean, it's an interesting look. At least it's recognizable.
Yeah, and it also gets away from the parallels of Green Arrow a bit. Yes,
yeah. So it's got some, like you say, it's got some good ideas. It's sort of, I'm trying to think how to frame my thoughts on it a little bit, because it's good. I really enjoyed it, actually. When I've said why, and I'm looking for reasons. I think that there's, as you said, like it sounds like it's gone in an interesting direction, which is good.
What about the coloring?
Yeah, I was. Let me just pull it. I was just looking at an image of it actually. So one of the things I would say is there's a couple of panels or a couple of pages where, let's see if I can find the one I'm thinking about, so I can reference it. So in that first issue, I mean, there's some that are really cool. Like the opening page is really cool. You get the forest, and you got,
and the varied greens on that, and yellow.
And then so there's other panels that look good, but then there's others that sort of it feels a little too washed out.
Yeah,
at times, and I find that the color panels sort of, or the colors sort of don't.
Word.
Yeah, they don't pop enough. Like there's some very busy panels, and you really have to look at what's going on.
That's one of the downsides of certain coloring of comics. You get this like unrealistic aspect to the coloring, and sometimes it works, and sometimes, like in here, it's debatable, and other times it doesn't work at all.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, and that's the thing. It's a real mixed bag, because there's some panels where like it clearly works, and then there's others where it's very sort of almost difficult to discern what's actually going on in the panel. You have to really look at it. So
yeah, and it doesn't help that sometimes the proportions will vary.
It's got it switches, doesn't it, into almost like caricature kind of sort of poses. Yeah. But so it does have a habit of doing that. And also, because I was thinking about this, like all three of them and stuff. I know. So I think Shazam, I have problem with sort of, like I said, dipping into the old age. It's good to have a look at it. It's there. So it came down to these two, Frontiersman versus Adventureman. I was like, if I could only have one, if I'm going to sign, I can only have one of these, and I'm going to read them. Like, what would it be? And I think Adventureman to me stands out as like, oh, that's the one I'm going to read. Like, that's the one I was like instantly.
Well, that gives you more bang for your buck.
There's that as well. You definitely get more bang for your buck. Yeah, more pages. But even the sort of like I felt more for the story. I related to it. I got more from it. I think I enjoyed the art more. It's the one I think I'm going to be taking away from this to go, oh, that's the one I'm gonna invest in. That's one I'm gonna go and check out, sort of thing. So, they're three sort of very, very different books, but yeah, that's the one that stood out for me. That's the one I think I'd be sort of like, if whilst you're not looking, I'll come over and read Adventureman on the beach and on the desert island. Yeah. Any other thoughts about Frontiersman?
My late father liked it, saw himself in the hero, but I don't think he fully wanted to admit how much he looked like the hero in terms of the belly issues.
Yeah.
Like obviously Frontiersman's not had the best diet. So
since he retired, yeah.
And my father didn't want to admit that part. So.
Hey, look, I can relate to that. It's definitely one of those things where I'm like, I think my clothes are shrinking, not that I'm growing. I think that's the way I like to think about it. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed these.
Well, clothes do shrink at times, yes.
Yeah, not as often, not the moment you bought them. They don't. I tell you.
No, not the moment you bought them usually. But sometimes I think that with the fact that so many brands make sweat from sweatshops and probably don't tell us. Or don't want to admit it, that we get clothes that look like they're proper but size, but then they turn out, okay, this is like a size too small.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Oh, that's definitely the case. Completely side issue, but there you go. Yeah, yes, but there we go. That's so we've gone through the three. I mean, what's your standout one? Which one was your sort of? If you don't have to rank them, but which is your standout really?
Well, I'd have to go for just Adventureman as well, because it's more bang for the buck kind of deal. Well, I think Shazam's more fun, and Frontiersman is more intellectual. You sort of get a combination of the intellectual and the fun with Adventureman as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you get that good mix, that happy medium that's sort of like it's meeting all those needs. And in fact, I've added it to my Amazon wish list. That's how much I enjoyed it. It's on there for me to pick up later in the year. But yeah, no, that's been cool. I mean, I've enjoyed this. I look at these, that's why I like doing this. I get to read people's new comics, find out why they're excited about them. But yeah, anything else you want to throw in about any of these three comics before we sort of look to wrap up?
That Shazam #1 is going to be hard to track down. They're looking just for the single issues, especially because everybody's with the trailer for the second movie and just the first movie. People have jacked up the prices so much for the single issues, especially #1.
Yes.
And that the other two are definitely going to, if you're politically sensitive, don't in any way, probably don't look at Frontiersman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, no matter what side of the spectrum you're on, it's like it's something that could negate your enjoyment of
it. If you're easily triggered, it may trigger you on every part of the political spectrum. Like, yeah, it will poke fun at everybody, and that's fair in my opinion. But yes, I totally see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And as for Adventureman, if you decide to, as I've said, the second story arc had some problems. I'm hoping the third is much better, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, but that first issue is a doozy, so it's definitely something to check out. Go try and find
definitely worth it for the first one.
Yeah, what I would say is, I mean, I bought these off Comixology Amazon, and they were like £1.50 a piece, so they're easily accessible on there. Well worth.
And there's other services that probably offer it, like Apple and stuff.
Oh yeah, you can get. And some of the prices are around the same, so they're not expensive. You just want to dip in and try these first issues, which is obviously the thing we try and do. So yes, no, it's good, excellent, Benjamin. Thank you very much for bringing your Desert Island comics to the island. It's greatly appreciated. We always like them on the. We like to add them to the library. Pile. Yeah, the stockpile that's on the island. I'm going to have to do that at some point. I'm going to have to go back and I'm going to do a list, and I'm going to have to put it on social media, like all the comics that have been added to the Desert Island Comics library. Yes, yeah, they're on there. They're all on there. We've got some great ones. So I think I'm going to do that, actually. That'd be something cool. But yes, thank you very much for coming on. And for the ladies and gentlemen out there, where can people find you and your outputs?
Currently, unfortunately, Time Trio is no longer on Comixology, but I plan on looking into globalcomics.com and some other places and seeing if I can put the first two issues that I still have. Issue 3 got stuck on a hard drive, external hard drive, so I gotta see if I can recover that through one of the verified places that will work with that hard drive. And that's my comic series with Joseph Nathan Smith was the artist. I've lost contact with him. So Joseph, if you're listening, I would so love to work with you again. And we also have some great letterers. And oh God, I'm forgetting the first one's name. But if you read it, you'll see that they both did good lettering. And Mika Meyer, I think, or it's either Mika or Micah Myers, who's lettered tons of other books. Fantastic letterer. I screwed up on the third issue presenting. There's basically, I had a scripting error. He kept it in, and now I'm just going to make it into a little thing where it reveals the identity of one of the characters through other typos. But these will be selected typos.
Nice. Incorporated.
And nice. Also, there is for my blog, it has changed to Ripper Spot. That's RIPPERSSPOT.wordpress.com.
A link down below.
Yeah. And there is also, you can find me at comiccon.com. That's COMICEON.com.
Cool. We'll put that in the link down below, so they'll be there.
And also, finally at SecWort.
Yes.
We have you should look at for the articles I did for them, and also the I've done some editing for them, including the Dark Knight book they put out recently, which name escapes me. Ugh. I hate when that happens. I'm never good with names. But we also are. We'll see. Hopefully by the end of the year, the Knights Past, Starman Companion.
Oh yes, yeah. Julian has mentioned that's been done, so that'd be cool. Yeah, another one.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, go check out SecWort. They do some fantastic books. I've heard they do a fantastic one on Judge Dredd. Well worth checking out.
I have not read that one yet.
You should. I think I hear the editor and contributor is an amazing guy. But yes, Ben, thank you very much for coming on. And ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy what we do, if you listen to all these, especially into the Desert Island Comics, and you want to sort of contribute, come find us on social media. Tell us what you think of these comics. Have you read them? Do you want to read them? What else would you bring to the Desert Islands? Find us at 20th Century Geek on Twitter, and the same across all social medias. Again, there's a link down below. But leave us a review if you like us. Leave a review. Go onto your podcast catcher, leave a 5-star review, and tell us, what you like, what you don't like. We all want the feedback. It'd be fantastic. Let us know what you think. And finally, if you really like what we're doing, you want to help us keep the lights on in 20th Century Towers, we have a Patreon, www.patreon.com/20cgmedia. And on there, we do a whole host of things. I do a monthly podcast called 30-Minute Thoughts, which is me just giving my thoughts on random topics that the people vote for. We are doing Trekking Through the Twilight Zone, me and Julian Darius going through the Twilight Zone episode by episode, and up to 2 seasons worth of stuff on there now. And I do Creator Corner as well, where I get someone on, a creator, to come on, talk about their work and anything else they want to talk about. It's all good fun. So yeah, go check those things out. Again, links down below. But finally, Ben, thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It's been good fun talking about these and reading these comics. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and we'll catch you on the next episode.